Tony, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great today. How about yourself?
Great. So Tony, tell me a bit about Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, areas you service, kind of stuff that you do, how long you've been in business. I know you're a big part of the community there. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Benjamin Franklin Plumber of Myrtle Beach. We service all of the Grand Strand area, all the way into Galveston Ferry down to Georgetown, South Carolina, Murrells Inlet, Garden City, Surfside Beach, Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, Little River, Longs, all the inland areas around the Grand Strand. And we've been in business since 2015. We've got a number of master plumbers that are on our team. We love the community that we serve. And I say we serve because we really believe in giving back to the community. We deal with a number of charities, and we're doing some charity work today at a local soup kitchen, as a matter of fact. But yeah, so we've got a great team. We do a lot of residential service work, and we also do commercial work now as well. And we've got all the equipment. So we're real big into, cleaning drains and jetting, especially on the commercial side. Our jetting business is quite healthy. And on the residential side, we help people with all kinds of common issues. And that's really what our guys love about their jobs, which is so cool, is because it's always something new, it's something different. This person has a different issue than this person. And so it's a good diversity of issues. And our guys like to serve people, right? And that's what we're all about, and making their day and making their plumbing system much better and more efficient.
Awesome. So a lot of times people have questions and they'll go on to before it used to be Google it, now it's ChatGPT it, right? And
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
ChatGPT doesn't have the right answers all the time because it's just trying to find, who answered the question and then try to compile and insinuate, hey, this must be the answer based off of the research. And it's not quite the same as asking a actual professional. So today I wanted to go over several questions, not top 20 questions
Yeah,
on
well, good.
what people have about plumbing needs and as a residential. What are the most common plumbing issues homeowner call you for?
Yeah, so we see a lot of common plumbing calls. I mean, you name it, from anything from a leaking. We see a lot of leaking faucets and outdoor hose bibs year round, especially obviously during the winter. We may have some issues with those because it does get cold every now and then. We'll get a good cold snap where we've got some frozen pipe issues, but usually, leaking faucets, showers, anything that deals with a shower, and your tub spout dripping from old age typically. And we see a lot of clogged drains or clogged toilets, which can't flush because there's a clog somewhere else down the line. And it could be a sewer issue, your sewer pipe issues, so we see a lot of that sewer replacing certain fittings or sections in there. Low water pressure is real big here because we've got a lot of continued new construction, right? So every time they're tapping into a main, or maybe they put too many on one big trunk line going into a neighborhood, so the pressure's not as good as it would be in, say, an older established neighborhood that's never had any water pressure issues. And we have a lot of water heater calls from both your tankless water heaters having issues because there's a lot of electrical and electronic parts in those. And we also do a lot of water heaters, the big tanked kind, from those having issues, mainly with age, but, every now and then it's just old parts like maybe a thermostat or an element on those, So those are our day to day, everyday calls that our guys are going out and fixing things in the community.
Nice. That's a lot. And that's not even everything, right?
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing about plumbing. I mean, it's pretty high demand. If people have a clogged toilet, we need to be there ASAP. We offer same day service because of that. Because even though we're not in what I'll call a water area, that meaning that we've got restrictions on water usage and that kind of stuff, people still don't like to see that waste, right? They don't like to see it drip. And usually they want that drip fixed pretty quick. So we try to be very convenient to their schedule for that. And for clogs, I mean, we run 24/7 for clogged drain lines. And clogged toilets. And usually toilets are the indicator they've got a backup somewhere.
How do I know if a plumbing issue is urgent or can wait?
At Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, it's up to our client as to how urgent it is. There are a lot of urgent things out there that can happen with a plumbing system. Usually a clog is definitely an urgent thing. I can't use any more water. I may can drink water, I may can fill a tub, but I can't empty a tub, right? Or my sink drains aren't draining, or my toilet won't flush because it's clogged. Those are very urgent calls, and people want us out there ASAP. Again, that's why we run 24/7. No hot water, big urgent call. I don't know how many people like to take cold showers, so we run a lot of water heater calls as well because it's an urgency thing. But I usually let our clients dictate to us what's urgent, what's not. If you've got a bad water leak, like maybe your house is on a slab, right? And you've got a water leak and you know it, you can hear it, that's urgent. We want to get out there and just in case so no more further damage is done, like let's get out there, find the leak, shut the water off, fix the leak and go from there. But yeah, with plumbing, it's very urgent. It's very same day. We try to hit, like most of the time we're going to be able to be there in the same day. But if let's say you just want a new toilet, then we're probably going to get out there the next day or so, right? It's not as urgent because you don't have an emergency clog. For some reason, you can't use your plumbing system. And so if you've got a problem, then we're going to be there same day and we're offering same day service for that for sure.
Right on. Awesome. The next question is, what's the most expensive mistake homeowners make with plumbing?
Well, don't take offense to this, but usually it's because they're doing it themselves or they get a handyman in to do it. And again, like with our other business, I do not recommend handymen on anything plumbing. And I know a lot of people out there may disagree with me, but all the problems that we typically encounter, not all of them, but a good majority are for people who are uninformed and do not practice regularly in the trade. So they haven't put enough toilet flanges in, like I've got guys that have put in thousands of toilet flanges and put them in correctly. And if they don't get put in correctly, then you may have a rotten floor in 5 to 10 years, right? So, I understand the need to get a handyman out there, but hiring a licensed plumber in the beginning will save you thousands of dollars in the end, right? Number one, licensed plumbers are bonded. We have insurance. We have workers' comp in case somebody gets injured. A lot of these other guys that are coming out, if you've got a problem after hours, good luck getting in touch with them, right? And so I think that the most expensive items a homeowner can do with their plumbing system is hire the wrong person to do that. And they need to hire a company like Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. We stand behind our work. We're not perfect, but we're going to make it right at the end of the day. And that's who you want to deal with. I have family that has needs as well. And I've educated them on the plumbing aspect. Like this is why you need a plumber because it's not today's fix. It's what needs to be fixed in 5 years from it doing it incorrectly to begin with. It's very expensive to hire somebody who doesn't know what they're doing when it comes to plumbing.
You don't want to be that homeowner that got flooded and then it's just now $50,000, $60,000 new floors. And yeah, you want to make sure you hire a professional plumber that knows what they're doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, really, a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of calculations that go into plumbing. There's a lot of making sure you're using the right fittings for plumbing, especially for sewage, right? The sewage has got to flow and it's got to be just about perfect for that system to work right without you having to get somebody to come clear your lines all the time because somebody didn't lay the system out right. When you call somebody like us and you've got a clog, we're going to find out why that thing's clogging. Maybe it's a one time, right? Maybe somebody jammed a bunch of toilet paper or a toy or, flushed something down there that didn't need to be flushed. We're going to run a camera and see like, hey, let's find out why this is hanging up. It may be nothing. And for the most part, that's usually the case. But every now and then we still see where the plumbing line it has what they call a belly, which is a low point in a piece of pipe. or they may have used the wrong fitting, right? It may not be vented properly. I mean, there's all kinds of things that people think, well, I just need to make sure it doesn't leak. No, you need to make sure it flows correctly.
Right.
Even your water, even your sewer, they have to flow correctly for you to not have issues. So yeah, that's an expensive mistake that a lot of people still make. They think that they can go out and they know how to run plumbing, and they don't understand the concept of venting, having the right pitch on the pipe to make sure that it's flowing correctly. It's not too steep, it's not too shallow, so that you have no flow, and too steep is too much flow, leaving solids in the line, right? So it's got to be perfect, and that's why you need to have a licensed plumbing company do that work.
And I think about even the people who hire these like Chuck in the truck, and they'll go in and say, "Hey, I installed it perfectly. It looks great. That problem on the street or whatever is someone else's problem," and then they get away with it without having to warranty the work. When in actuality, it is their problem because of all the things you talked about. Maybe because they didn't have the right flange, or they didn't anticipate whatever installation. There's other variables that they didn't
Right.
consider. So now the homeowner is stuck with this payment that they did and more damage. And the person's not backing up their service because they say, "Hey, it's installed properly. I did my part." That was another issue that's been there before, when it's probably the installation that caused it, is what you're saying, is that you have to be
That's
careful
right.
with.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like it's not always about the end result. It's how it gets there, right? And we won't go into the old saying of what goes downhill, but everything it originates somewhere, and it's got to get there correctly for that system to be efficient and work correctly. And again, experience comes in. Like I was talking about a toilet flange earlier. Knowing the right elbows to put in, how the elbows need to bend, where you need clean outs because of the length of the run, things like that. I mean, just to the general layman that may be playing around with it, he really could be doing himself a disservice by thinking he's saving money and doing it himself,
Yeah.
because he doesn't understand the concept of what a plumber does when they put in new plumbing for a house, or when we go in to do repair work or do a resewer or repipe for water. There's a lot of different things that go in with that to make sure that their system is very efficient.
Nice. That's good stuff there. All right, next question here. How often should I have my plumbing system inspected?
So, hey, your plumbing system inspected, just like I feel like everything in your house needs to be inspected annually when it comes to your mechanical systems, whether it's plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, or gas work, right? It needs to be inspected annually. You want an efficient system, right? You want to make sure that your water pressure hasn't changed, right? Why does that matter? Well, convenience for number one, to make sure your washing machine fills up in a reasonable amount of time, to make sure you have pressure in the shower, right? To make sure you've got good flow coming out of your faucets, your sinks. Are things draining well, right? How does your water heater look? Is it old? Is it efficient? Right? Can you save more money by upgrading that appliance? Right? So everybody says a water heater's lifetime is typically 10 years, and that's correct. But have you been flushing it annually? Right? That's an annual inspection. So we include that in our annual inspections of a tanked water heater flush, right? If you have a tankless water heater, you definitely need to have an annual inspection on that. It's got a lot more components that are electrical mixed with the water. You want that appliance very efficient, right? Because it is taking a small amount of gas and turning it into your hot water. Definitely needs to be looked at. Gas inspection on top of that as well. But you definitely want to check that out annually. And so people are like, well, why every year? Well, number one would be a tank to drain your water heater tank, flush it out. It will make sure that that water heater lasts 10 years, right? Because you're getting rid of the sediment. Sediment can cause more rust internally in the tank. So, if you get Benjamin Franklin out there for our maintenance agreement, we're including that into that maintenance agreement. We always recommend it. Now, there does become a point in time with water heaters. If we haven't flushed a water heater and it's never been flushed in, say, 6 years, probably doesn't need to be flushed at that point in time, because we're going to be worried that it may cause more damage than good at that point in time, just because of the amount of sediment buildup in the bottom of that tank. But for the most part, if the heater's fairly new, then we're going to flush it out and make sure that it's good, extend the life of your water heater. That's number one. And those are expensive appliances, right? Especially a tankless water heater. But again, maybe you've got some type of water filtration too that you need eyeballs on annually, whether you may have a reverse osmosis system that needs new filters, or maybe a new osmosis membrane, or may just need to be rebid if you've got a carbon style filter for the whole house, or maybe you need some new cartridges. But again, it's all about the efficiency of your plumbing system, making sure it's working. We're looking to be proactive so that you're not calling somebody on the weekend or at night when things may get a little more expensive, right? Not because of our rates, but because of it being after hours, right? So our rates don't change, but we do charge more to come out after hours and on weekends, but we're available 24/7 for that. That's what we want to prevent when we're doing our annual maintenance inspections. We want to save you money by being proactive and taking care of something before it becomes a major inconvenience. Think about the holidays and those times where your systems are starting to get maxed from company. You may have a bathroom that rarely ever gets used until you have company coming. Now it's getting used, and man, I wish we would have checked that before, all of a sudden it's getting used 50 times in that weekend or what have you. So it's real important to get that done just for your own convenience and the system efficiency.
Is it true? Follow-up question about the water heaters is most manufacturers won't warranty your water heater if you don't do a yearly flush. Is that correct?
Yeah, especially with the tank units. Now, they even with with tankless units. So now they want you to have some type of water conditioner to help preserve that tankless unit, right? Tankless. The tank unit, I mean, just the expense of tank units anymore. I mean, back in the day, they weren't expensive, but with everything, in the last 10 years, it seems like we've had to get rid of an 80-gallon water heater, which were probably one of the most popular in the entire country. Now we're down to a 50-gallon water heater. Look, there's a lot of turnover in a 50-gallon, more so than the 80, right? As far as heating up water and flushing and turning it over for more hot water to come out. So, yeah, I mean, just in general, things have gotten more expensive, and that's why we want to maintain it for that reason.
Right. And so, but will the manufacturer say, hey, I want to see receipts that you actually flush this water heater in the last 3 years? Otherwise, they won't cover the warranty, or do they not care?
Well, no, so they do care. They've become a lot more. They pay attention a lot more to the tankless as far as the warranty goes, the expense of the equipment, right? As far as the tank unit goes, we haven't encountered where they've asked us for any of that documentation. But with our company, we're giving you warranties depending on what type of water heater you want, right? So we offer a 6-year warranty, we offer a 10-year warranty, and we also have lifetime heaters and when I say a lifetime, that is the tank, right? So you have a thermostat and you also have elements. Those aren't lifetime, but those are, parts to change out of a serviceable unit. You still want to get it flushed out, right? At the end of the day, it depends on the tank, right? If it's a fiberglass or some type of, composite tank now that are out there, then flushing those out, I still recommend it, right? What kind of sediment do you have in there? So, the manufacturers have still been generous on that, but as things continue to progress, I can see that in the future for sure that they may start asking, all right, we want to know when you flushed it out, where you flushed it out, et cetera.
So either way, just do it to be safe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we want efficiency, like who wants to go replace a water heater that they put in 5 years ago? You want to extend the life of that appliance as long as you can. And that's an easy way to do it. Get us out there, get on our maintenance plan. It's going to benefit you. It includes, depending on where you are, but it's more likely going to include plumbing and electrical with our companies. And it just makes sense to be proactive and take care of any issues before they become major issues and they're very inconvenient after hours.
Right on. Awesome. What are signs my home has hidden leaks?
Look, there could be multiple signs that you have hidden leaks. Number one, when you get your water bill, definitely take a look at your gallons used, right? If your water bill has jumped up, you should have a reason why it jumped up. I mean, you could have a toilet running, and I know that doesn't sound like much, but it is a lot of water going down the drain, literally, as a toilet begins to run. You know, when it gets cold down south, hey, run your faucets. How many times do we forget to turn the faucet off because we set it overnight? We get out of the house in the morning, we come back, and we've had a steady drip now for 24, 48, 72 hours. That's a lot of water, right? That's an easy fix too, thankfully. But yeah, you may have soggy spots in your yard that doesn't make sense. We haven't had rain in 2 weeks, and I'm standing in some damp, damp soil, damp grass. Okay, I may have an outside leak. You may have a loss of water pressure in your house that could indicate you have a slab leak somewhere, right? And it may not be coming to the surface. It may, and you would be able to tell that typically through wet carpet or having some issues with maybe some flooring somewhere showing you that you've got a leak. But and you may even hear you may even hear your slab leak as well. But usually your water bill, biggest indicator other than that, it's going to be with your senses. You're going to either see it out in the yard or you're going to hear it or see an area that's flooded. Most people don't check under their houses normally. So if you have a crawl space, again, you're probably going to find out from your water bill that you've had a leak. And a lot of times, thankfully, municipalities will help you out if you get a plumber out there to identify where the leak's coming from, and he gives you the invoice, and then you then take it to your municipality. They'll usually give you a break because you figured out the leak, and they're usually nice like that still. So
No,
that's a good thing.
that's good. I actually have a recent story. Our water bill went from like $300 to $1,000 a month.
Oh,
And we were like, what happened? We are not using nowhere near as much water. And sure enough, it was a leaky toilet that was just running all the time. And it went up to $1,000 a month. So to
oh,
your
oh.
point, it can get very expensive very fast.
That toilet really was running nonstop, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wide open.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into water and pipes. So why does my water pressure suddenly drop?
Usually, depending on where you live, but usually if you have a sudden drop in water pressure, it's more than likely they're either doing work on the utilities, doing work somewhere in the area, or there's a sudden demand in usage, right? So take my neighborhood, for instance, at 5 a.m., typically there's not a lot of water pressure. That's a head scratcher, right? But that's when everybody's watering their yards, right? So if they're using city water to irrigate, and I know that sounds crazy, but it happens all the time. There's a lot of water flowing that's going out in sprinkler heads all across the neighborhood. So you're going to have a decrease in water pressure. It may be even your own house that's got a lot of things going on, right? So, whether it's irrigation, maybe you've got others in the house that you don't know about. Maybe there's an outside hose bib running and you're pouring out water out of a hose bib. Somebody in the kitchen's using the faucet. A kid flushes the toilet upstairs, or maybe two toilets get flushed and you're trying to take a shower. So you notice the drop. You'll also notice the increase, but a lot of times it's just because of the usage from that water supply coming through. But if you live in a high construction area, typically they're always doing work on the water mains. You're going to have a loss in pressure. I would tell you, if you're noticing a lot of constant water dropping, like water pressure that's dropping, probably should get a filter because you're going to get a lot of sediment in the lines from them doing the work construction wise. And if you constantly have low water pressure, it may just be that the lines feeding your home are just not big enough, right? Sometimes municipalities make mistakes and feed the home with too small of a line. There are products and services out there that'll help that water pressure, they're pumps, right? And it's simple. It's a simple concept. We're going to take the incoming water and we're going to run it through a pump to speed that up and push it through the house. And those are, those are lifesavers if you have low water pressure. You'll really appreciate that coming out of your shower head instead of dealing with just something that's subpar and it's not going to work for you. But usually it's usually an indication that there's too much water being distributed throughout the house or in the main distribution for the area you're in.
Right on. And then if it's like it never happened before, from the last question you answer, it could be that you have a water leak. If it's like, you've been there for like say 2, 3 years, you never, and then all of a sudden your water pressure just goes down. It could, be a construction site, like you said, or it could possibly be a leak that you're facing.
Yes, yes. If you notice a sudden decrease and it's that bad, man, by all means, you really need to call a plumber, but definitely go do some investigative work, right? Don't sit idle because if it is a big leak, let's say it's hidden behind the wall. I mean, it happens all the time. Somebody could have put a nail through, like on new construction. Somebody could have put a nail through one of your water lines and it's just been dripping. But all of a sudden now it's not dripping any longer. It's really spraying out. And so you've got a big issue. You want to go, look, do not let it go to waste and just assume that it's the utility having an issue or somebody, you may have a lot of usage going on. Definitely go look at your water meter. That's a great way to tell. Like if your water meter's really spinning and you don't have any water pressure, you know you have a leak, right? Shut your water off, call a plumber, but mainly shut your water off immediately and then call a plumber.
It's a great segue to the next question is how does a homeowner find where the water shut off valve is?
Okay, so that's a great question because everybody should know where their water valve for the whole house is, right? Especially before you do any plumbing work, right? Just because you have a cutoff beside a toilet or underneath a faucet does not mean that that cutoff is going to work. So it's vitally important to make sure you know where that water main is. It's usually in your front yard, right? If you can't identify it, call the municipality and get them to come out and help. We usually always identify where that cutoff is before we're doing work with your water because we want to know, the matter of a couple of minutes of shutting water off versus, a prolonged time is huge in damages. I mean, it is amazing how much water could come out of even a 3/8 inch ice cube line for your ice maker, right? It is amazing how much water comes out. So find that. You may have to take a sharp stick and go around your yard looking for the top of a steel plate meter in your yard. Okay, when you identify that, clean it off, open it up. Now, you need a water key, right? They sell them at Home Depot, they sell them at Lowe's, all of our plumbers carry them, but you need to know where your main water cutoff is for that very reason. In case you're doing work around the house, all of a sudden what you thought was going to cut it off doesn't cut off. You can usually get to that front yard water main in, most people in a matter of a minute, right? That's vital to not having too much damage in your home from a half inch or like I said, a 3/8 inch line or whatever the line is, it'll amaze you how much water it puts out. So know where that is. You can identify it usually by metal cover. Some places may be plastic, but look in your front yard, open it up. And if you need help, you can always call us. We can come do it when we're doing a plumbing inspection or what have you. We'll be happy to help you with that just because it's that big of a deal.
I'll tell you what, because I know a lot of plumbers as my friends, I was aware to know where the shutoff valve is. And there was an instance where someone was traveling to our house and they used wet wipes that our toilets never really was used to. And they're really old piping where I live. And all of a sudden, the toilet started to back up and started to go really slow. And the septic started to just come up and it starts going. I'm started freaking out, and all of a sudden my head says, "Shut off the water." So then I run out in the front yard, grabbed at the valve, and shut it off. And then the water started reciting back down, and it didn't overflow. it could have been a disaster. And because I knew where that valve was, I was able to save tens of thousands of dollars in repairs just
Oh
from knowing
yeah,
that.
heck yeah. Think about it. You know, even if you don't have if you have a two-story house for sure, but even a single floor, I mean, you know, the water damage is the number one issue for homes. I mean, that's an insurance company's nightmare as a flood, right? So you need to know where that is. I recommend even having another one located near the house. But you know, something a lot of people always overlook are their small cutoffs for all of their water. You know, your sinks have cutoffs, all of your sinks have cutoffs, and all of your toilets have cutoffs. You know, a lot of those get old and they've got old rubber packing inside of them. And so they don't, you know, when do you exercise them? You never do. So when you need it and you think you've got it and you haven't messed with them in 15 years and you go to turn that thing and all of a sudden nothing's happening and water's still going, where's my water main cutoff, right? So yeah, go out and identify that. And you know, another cool product that they make now, you know, especially for your second homeowners is, you know, Wi-Fi or blue, well, it's Wi-Fi. And it detects a leak and it will shut your water main off when it detects that leak, right? And so, man, that's huge. It can be an inconvenience, but if you set the parameters right, you know, you don't really hear about it being an inconvenience because most people are like, I'd rather have the inconvenience than the flood, right? So, you know, a lot of companies out there make those as well. We install those a lot for second homeowners who aren't here, who don't know or are not there to see if they have flood going on or anything. They don't even know if their water's flowing, right? But it'll detect a toilet leaking, a water heater leaking. Maybe it's a washing machine, right? Like all of a sudden one of those hoses busted a leak, you know, because a lot of people still use just a rubber hose instead of the stainless steel snake hoses that have protection so that they'll stop a burst, right? You may still have a leak on one, but you're not going to have a bursted line spraying water out with one of those. So yeah, I mean, and that's a great idea to put on a water main, especially if you're not home a lot and you travel a lot or it's a second home. I can't recommend those enough because they identify that leak and they'll shut it off until you tell it, hey, I don't have a problem. So those are real good.
Didn't even know that existed. What great technology we have these days.
Yeah, yeah. Battery operated, as long as they've got a Wi-Fi signal, man, they're fantastic. Really are. And you know, they're a little pricey, but look at what they're protecting, right? And you know, unfortunately, a lot of people price products by what that product's protected. You know, so it's just one of those things. But to me, if I've got a second home and I'm not there, I want to know what my water usage is because if I have a leak on the second floor, I may have $150,000 bill by the time I've identified it, or somebody, a neighbor calls me and says, "You got water running out of your front door." That's not a good sign.
Yeah, you don't want that.
So
And insurance is
no,
not, insurance tries to not pay for things. So, well, I got insurance.
yeah,
Well, sometimes
yeah.
they don't pay for things. So, what causes pipes to burst and how can I prevent it?
I'll start off with this. You know, in new homes, how fast the construction is, right? And properly glued joints, right? If they're still doing that, they may be running PEX. Maybe they didn't crimp one of the connections well, right? That's not a burst, right? But it's still an issue. Bursted pipes, you know, definitely could be from old age, exposure to sunlight, right? So a lot of plumbing piping is made to last for a very long time. Copper, galvanized was even made to last for a very long time, but they just didn't realize that the interior of galvanized lines rust inside out, right? So you know those are typically going to be where they, you know, you don't see a lot of galvanized anymore. A lot of that's been replaced. You see a lot of copper. Copper was made to last for a long time, but sometimes, you know, if a compound got on the copper or, you know, for whatever reason, some type of a solvent or something like that, then you start getting some leaks and plumbers call those pinhole leaks, right? And, you know, you have to replace that section and then what you're doing is you're shifting to looking for the new weakest spot. You aren't, but the water will find the next weakest spot. CPVC. big time leak, right? And that's typically because of improper installation. So I go back to most of your pipes bursting are going to be from improper installation when they were originally put in, or some type of condition caused it to fail and burst. We talk about, there's other types of piping, right? We use tubing for, hoses for your washing machines. It's imperative not to use those rubber garden hose style washing machine hoses. They burst, they get weak, and they get weak at usually at pinch points where they put the ends on there, right? But it doesn't have to be that. So, that's usually where you're going to have pipes bursting. Maybe you had a freeze or something like that. But usually it's because it's been exposed to an element that it shouldn't have been, and or just bad installation methods that create that issue. That's why you should have a plumbing inspection annually. How often are you getting in the crawl space looking to see where you have a leak or where you may identify that, hey, man, that's going to be a problem, right? Maybe it's just a drip right now, but it's going to become a spray at some point in time over time. Water, believe it or not, water is the greatest cleanser on the earth, right? So it's got some abrasive qualities to it, as you can tell by the Grand Canyon. Do you think a piece of PVC pipe is not going to do the same thing as a rock? It's going to affect how that water comes out. Water is, like I said, it's probably the most powerful force on earth. And it's just waiting to find a way to get out of that pipe.
So I know in certain parts of the country we have ground that moves, and people sometimes, like people have pool problems where the pool starts to crack because just the ground starts if it's clay or mud or whatever underneath the ground. Is your part of the country, does it have movement in the ground, and then that could cause pipes to kind of shift around and they get stressed out to burst?
Yeah, well, so in a lot of construction in this area is slab, right? And so, yeah, we have a lot of slab leaks because the slab is just sitting on top of the dirt and it's cracked somewhere, and that crack can easily crack a pipe, no problem. I mean, it only has to be the slightest shift. And in our area, we may feel a tremor from the Charleston fault line, right? But thankfully, we really don't have any earthquakes here. I wouldn't be talking to you from Myrtle Beach. I'd find a place that did. And there's two things I can't live around, and that's earthquakes and tornadoes, right? I can live around a hurricane all day long because I can prepare for that, but I can't prepare for the unknown or something jumping down on me from the sky. So, but here, fortunately, that's where we see most of the shifting going, is because they've got a slab, right? If you've got a raised crawl space, you may have some shifting just because our soil content's not, maybe it's not compacted or what have you the way it needed to be. But usually, if you've got a crawl space, you're not going to have any issues on that front from, having a bursted pipe. But definitely on slabs here, we have a lot of shifting from the soil content, from the weight of the house. Maybe this area was packed a little harder than this area, so there's a little shift creates the break in the pipe.
Okay, that's good to know. Awesome. All right, next question here. Is hard water really a problem, and do I need a water softener?
Hard water can be a big problem, right? Generally, in our area, we don't have a lot of places with hard water, but we do have places with hard water, right? So we're going to do definitely, I always recommend a softener when you do have hard water. It'll make your life much more easier and convenient. But usually, so hard water is usually from calcium and magnesium, right, in the water supply. And those create a lot of spotting issues. They create a lot of gook, and I say gook, and where your faucets come out. If you look at your shower heads, you look like you got a lot of calcium buildup, magnesium buildup, just discoloration coming out where it comes out, where the water's coming out of your shower heads, right? And that creates a lot of spotting on glass shower doors, which drive most people's spouses absolutely crazy. Or, anybody who's got a little bit of OCD, man, those hard water spots, they'll get you. And so, yeah, a softener will definitely take care of those hard water spots. It's going to make your soaps last a lot longer because you're probably going through a lot of soap just trying to get a lather, which Okay, so we have hard water. We're gonna have some dry skin issues because again, we don't, the water's very hard on your skin. Remember I said water has abrasive qualities. Well, add some hardness to that, and it's even more abrasive. So, you're gonna have itchy, dry skin, maybe your scalp's real itchy, or, your skin just doesn't feel right. Well, that could easily be from hard water. To mitigate that, I would definitely say, let somebody come out and let somebody check your water. Do not let somebody assume you have hard water without doing a true test of water samplings, right? Because if you don't need a softener, you really don't need to spend the money to have a softener. But if I've got plenty of cases where we live in Myrtle Beach, Horry County, where we do have some outlying areas that are not on wells, they're on city water and they have very hard water. So we've come in with a range of solutions on filtration to really help that. And I can tell you, we've been real big heroes with wives in that aspect, just because we really cut down a lot on the cleaning time. We're saving your glasses. And again, you're saving on all your soaps, all your detergents, and your skin is going to feel 1,000 times better. It's going to be soft, it's going to be smooth, and you'll notice the difference in the shower just because of how you lather, right? A lot of people don't realize that, but if you go out west, which typically has real hard water, you're sitting there scrubbing that bar of soap, just trying to get some kind of lather. It could be in this washcloth or even on your skin or whatever, and it's just, there's nothing there. So you're wearing down that bar of soap not to get a lather. Happens here. It happens all over. So, it's just another way that if you had a softener, you're going to be saving money. And some people go, well, I don't want salt in my water. Look, the American Heart Association, I do not believe even has an issue with the amount of content there, right? It's very minimal, very minimal. And look, and if that is an issue, right? Everybody's medical histories are different, or medical issues are different. There's also softeners that don't use salt, right? They're not salt based. They're a different type of softener. We offer those solutions as well. So, don't let the sodium side of I don't want salt in my water scare you from a softener, because we do have other solutions that are salt free that are going to accomplish the same thing. They just do it different.
Right on. So got the right solution for anybody that have concerns with whatever salt or non-salt.
Yeah, I mean, with water filtration, we've got, I mean, all of our technicians are trained on water filtration, right? We're not just going out there and winging it and hoping we got it right, because we back up everything we do when it comes to that. And our clients are going to be happy with the products that we put in because our name depends on it, right? I mean, we're going to do the right thing. And if our solution doesn't fix it, then we're going to make it right. We're either going to put the right products in to fix it, or we're going to give you your money back. I mean, that's just how it is. But with water, there's not a problem that can't be solved with water, right? We've got great contacts throughout the industry that I even know personally, that we're going to get help if we need it and it's over our head for some crazy reason. But we've seen multitudes of issues in our area. Everything in water from, the new PFAS, which is the forever chemicals. We deal with a lot of chlorination and chloramines in our area, which are horrible for your skin. But we still we know that that's rampant in the area, right? While we don't test for PFAS, right? We don't, it's too expensive. We do know that PFAS is in our water, and we know that from the government, right? They do their own sampling on that. So we don't have to test for that. But we're still going to test for chlorination and chloramines in your water, even though we know it's there, because we want to show you the evidence. We don't want to just tell you that's what it is. So we want to show you the evidence. And then that way we can take before and we can take after samples, right? To show you that the product's working beyond you just noticing it on your skin. A quick help bit on removing chlorination and chloramines, I would have to say, would be my wife and daughter. When they used to get these big welts on their backs and all over their skin after they took a hot shower. And it was because of the chlorination that we had in the water. And as soon as we put in a whole house water filtration using carbon, catalytic carbon. They don't have that issue anymore. And it was all because of this, the steam from the chlorine on their skin. Remember, your skin's a sponge, right? And so you're also breathing in those vapors as they're hot. And so, man, we just feel so much better that we have that product at our house, and it really does a lot. And, a lot of people think that water filtration is expensive. It's not expensive at all. When you really start looking at what it does for you, you can eliminate water bottles, right? You've got water, you've got great water quality at your tap. And then you're also saving on, again, you're still saving on soaps, you're saving on detergents, depending on what products you're using. It's just healthier all over for your body to use some type of a filtered product for your water.
So you're saying we're gonna
You're
have
saying we're
bottled
gonna have
water quality coming from the spout outside. So if I'm just thirsty and it's a hot summer day, I just start drinking from the hose. 'Cause that's just bottled water quality water.
Yeah, but here's the thing with your hose, right? Be careful of your hose because more than likely your hose is leaking in plastic,
Ah,
right? It's hot.
yeah.
How many times have you turned on the water hose and scalded yourself because the water's so hot, right? Now, if it's cold, right? But at the end of the day, just being super technical and talking about a hose is probably not the best thing to drink out of. I know I
Hey,
did
I
when I was
grew up
trying to
doing
learn
it.
growing
I'm
up.
okay. Maybe that's all my problems.
I still do. I still do. But you get that heavy plastic taste, and sometimes it's just not as good as getting it out of your faucet.
Yeah, yeah.
But it wets your whistle, right? It wets your whistle, so it's acceptable. And heck, if you're thirsty, it really doesn't matter where it's coming from as long as it's out of your house. So
Right.
yeah.
Awesome. Why does my water sometimes smell bad?
That can be for multiple issues, right? Again, what is in your water, right? That's something we don't know, but usually bad smelling water, right? If it's a sulfur smell, it could be coming from the municipality, right? Like rotten eggs. That's just high in sulfur. And that is part of their process to get you clean water. It may stink, but it's not good. It's healthy. It's still, I shouldn't say it's healthy, it's safe. Okay. And that is what a utility is supposed to do. A utility is supposed to get you safe water. Doesn't happen everywhere. Obviously, we know that from the government messing up, right? That's why having your own filtration system is very important. But, most of the time I say sulfur or rotten eggs, it could be from your own anode rod in your water, right? Sometimes that anode rod is dealing with a chemical reaction from your water, from your municipality, and it's taking that metal anode rod and it's creating a smell, right? Usually that's a hot water issue. If you've got it all over, it's more than likely a municipality issue. There's certain, we can certainly get rid of those smells by doing certain things with filtration to take care of the smells. But usually that's what it is. And we're going to be able to, we're going to look at before we say, hey, you need a water filter, we're probably going to be looking at at what type of piping system you have for your water. We're definitely going to look at your water heater because, these are the more inexpensive ways to take care of a water smell than by saying, hey, you need to get a filter, right? It may not be the filter that's even going to take care of it. If you've got an anode issue and we put in a water filter, guess what? You still got stinky water. So we want to do our troubleshooting and investigating to find out exactly why your water has a bad odor. And that's quite common, especially in the South, We have a lot of places around here that still have a bad sulfur smell in their water, and it's easily correctable. But we want to make sure that it's that, not something simple like an anode rod. Maybe it's your piping as well, but we're going to investigate that and check it out.
Right on. Awesome. Last question. How long should pipes last in a home?
Yeah, so we talked about that a little while ago. I would tell you that typically copper piping, you're 50 to 70 years, but you can, like we said earlier, depending on who put it in and how they put it in, what was on their hands when they did it. Metals react to different solvents or, and that's where you can get some pinholing issues. Maybe your water is even deteriorating, something like that. I would tell you that PEX, PEX is the new way for everybody to be running water lines in their homes. PEX got a great lifetime, you know. As long as it's not exposed to sunlight, you're going to get 50 years out of that type of piping, more than likely, right? And then CPVC, we spoke about that. You know, there's been a lot of issues with CPVC becoming brittle, but it's typically how it was installed that made it the issue. It's not the pipe itself, it was how it was installed, and it was installed incorrectly, right? So when you get something that's exposed to the elements day in, day out, baking in the sun, etc., not your metal, not your copper, but the others, you're going to have some issues because it's just going to, it deteriorates. The UV light is not good for those type systems. So, you know, I mean, CPVC should have lasted 50 to 70 years, but for the most part, most of it was installed proper, and I'm sorry, improper. And so a lot of that's been replaced. PEX makes life a lot easier for new construction. So there's a lot of that goes on. You know, one of the main components or one of the main issues with PEX is you do have a plasticky taste in water for a little while. You just flush it out, right? Over time, it flushes. PEX is BPA free, right? And that's a big deal. We were talking about a garden hose earlier. I don't know that they're BPA free, but we've drank out a lot of things that aren't, even water bottles sometimes aren't all BPA. They should be BPA free, but they may not be. But back to the piping, I mean, usually you're seeing issues with piping because of the poor installation, you know, and that could take 10 years, right? And your pipes may only be good for 10 years because somebody installed them incorrectly. So again, annual inspections can help really prevent you having bad issues with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions, and we'll go through the rest another time.